In 2018, inside a luxurious mansion in Seattle, Washington, a sophisticated Chinese-American woman was blindsided by a lawsuit that left her reeling. The man who had once promised her love was now demanding half her fortune, despite the fact they had never married. This man, who had entered her life with kindness and care, had morphed into the plaintiff in the most expensive legal battle she'd ever faced. The house she worked tirelessly to buy before meeting him, the investment she'd painstakingly built over years. Everything was now at risk of being split in two, all because of 2 years of cohabitation and dating. What made it even more terrifying was that every document was perfectly legal. No fraud, no law-breaking. It was a cleverly orchestrated trap. So whose side would the law take? Was this man just an opportunist exploiting a loophole, or had he engineered a calculated love project from the start? The case came to light through a journalist who once worked at a Chinese-language newspaper in Seattle. He was used to fielding calls and meeting readers, witnessing plenty of odd stories. But this one stunned him and his colleagues. To protect the woman's privacy, we'll call her Lena. Late in 2018, Lena sought help from the newsroom. She looked worn out yet defiant, her voice bitter with rage. "I just want to know if I can sue him," she said. So who did Lena want to sue? She was a classic white rich beauty, a stunning, wealthy, elegant woman in her 30s, though still radiant. She'd been divorced from her ex-husband, a successful businessman who'd long been surrounded by younger women. Eventually, Lena was pushed aside, replaced like an old tenant evicted from a prize lease. Still, her ex wasn't entirely heartless. He left her enough wealth to live comfortably for life. After the divorce, Lena moved with her daughter to Seattle, settling into a mansion in an upscale neighborhood dubbed a paradise for America's Chinese elite. Life in this enclave was extravagant. Once, a thief scaled a wall into a nearby mansion, using the gardener's ladder to climb inside. He didn't even bother cracking the safe, just grabbed some jewelry and antique watches lying around, worth about $500,000 used. Though the Chinese community here was large, neighbors rarely bonded. They used English names, seldom revealing their true identities. If a newcomer asked about the previous owner of a house, where they came from, what they did, the response was usually silence or a cold shrug. Most people who moved to Seattle's elite corners shared one goal: to bury their pasts. In this detached world, only the Filipino housekeepers loved to gossip. They'd gather in parks, swapping cooking tips and tidbits about their employers. One spring day in 2015, Lena's housekeeper returned from the park buzzing with excitement. "I met a European architect," she told her boss. "He's sketching old houses around here and offering to pay homeowners to let him draw their properties." For some reason, Lena agreed without hesitation. The next morning, as her daughter headed to school, a sleek Audi pulled up to the mansion. Out stepped a tall, handsome Western man who could have passed for royalty. Lena did a double take, thinking he looked like a movie star. Do all European men have this aristocratic air? He flashed a polite smile, bowed slightly, and introduced himself. "Hello, I'm Mark. I'm an architect. I love the style of homes in this area. It'll take me 2 or 3 days to sketch yours." "Thank you for agreeing." Lena caught a few familiar words, architecture, heritage, and pieced together his intent. Not wanting to seem flustered, she smiled brightly and invited him in. That day, Lena summoned every scrap of her limited English to chat with Mark. He eagerly pulled sketching tools from his trunk, explaining as he worked. "The neighbor's house is Georgian, but yours leans Victorian. This area is a living museum." Lena didn't fully grasp the terms, but she found his passion magnetic. Predictably, romance followed. When Mark finished his sketches, he didn't just bring the drawings. He arrived with a huge bouquet of roses and a confession of love. They started dating. Lena's daughter, craving a real father figure, quickly warmed to Mark. She'd longed for someone to teach her ride a bike or take her camping, not just a mother dolled up for fancy dinners or movies. Mark seemed like a dream come true for both of them. He had licenses for hunting, fishing, and motorbiking, knew every trail and stream in Seattle, and whisked them off on adventures, hiking trips, starry campouts. Compared to the Chinese men Lena had known, smart and educated but clumsy at life, fumbling even to change a light bulb, Mark was a modern caveman, rugged, capable, building fires and tents with ease. Lena could sit by the crackling flames, basking in bliss, without lifting a finger. Yet sometimes she felt a disconnect. Their tastes in music and movies clashed, and Mark wasn't one for sweet things. Still, his actions spoke louder than words. Once, he rented a floor steamer and scrubbed the mansion spotless, a job local cleaners charge a fortune for. Another time, he scrubbed the mossy driveway she'd always hated. To Lena, love didn't need romance novel flair. Just a man who'd care for her, her daughter, and their home. One day, Mark casually mentioned he worked for a design firm downtown. His apartment lease was expiring, and he needed a new place. Lena thought, why do Westerners love renting? They could save up and buy, not live under someone else's roof. But when Mark shared more about his situation, she blurted out, "My house is huge. Why don't you move in? We can see if it works." It was a throwaway suggestion, or so she thought. Mark nodded instantly. Soon, he moved in with minimal belongings, breathing new life into their once lonely home. Mark blended seamlessly into Lena's world. At her friends' gatherings, his charm and humor stole the show. What made them green with envy, though, was a small gesture. Whenever Lena reached for her wallet, Mark beat her to it, swiping his card and pocketing the receipt like it was nothing. Her friends gushed. He's not one of those stingy Westerners who split everything 50-50. Compared to a friend's ex who dragged her to a lawyer to sign away inheritance rights, Mark seemed generous. Though his salary wasn't high, he never asked about Lena's ex or her wealth, just quietly shared the load. Each month, he'd venom her for expenses, $1, $500 for her daughter's tuition, $500 for groceries, $1,800 for gutter cleaning, $2,500 for clothes, totaling $3,000 to $4,000, all unprompted. It's not about money, Lena and her friends agreed, but a man who won't share materially can't be sincere. Mark proved his love through deeds, not words. Though his contributions were modest next to her spending, he poured most of his modest income into their family. And that said everything. From 2015 to 2017, the trio thrived in their cozy mansion. When Lena's teenage daughter turned moody, snapping at her mom, Mark stepped in. "You don't yell at your mother. She's my love." He patiently corrected the girl's homework, softening her as into needs improvement. Once, she whispered to Lena, "Mom, when Mark cooks, he watches the oil so it doesn't splash you. He really loves you." Tax season, once a headache of receipts and accountants, became a breeze with Mark sorting every form flawlessly. Westerners learn taxes young. He shrugged when Lena marveled at his precision. Some wealthy Chinese folks still struggle with it. He knew the mansion better than Lena did. Fixing pipes, tending the garden. Before him, she'd fretted over the glass doors with no bars despite alarms and staff. With Mark, that fear vanished. Her friends raved. He's skilled and educated. Marry him. Have another kid. Those teasing words melted Lena's heart, especially when she met Mark's polished, successful friends who welcomed her warmly. They called her his partner. Did they already see her as his wife? Everything felt like a fairy tale, until a fateful day. At a friend's party, Mark introduced a poised Chinese woman in traditional dress, exuding wealth and grace. Lena clocked her instantly. Same class, same background. It seemed trivial then, but hold that thought. It'll matter later. 2 years together transformed Lena. From a homebody sipping coffee and shopping, she learned to hunt, kayak, and stroll under cherry blossoms with Mark. Then, out of nowhere, he announced his firm had laid him off. He'd return to Spain to start over. At first, Lena was relieved. His pay was peanuts. He might thrive back home. But that hope crumbled fast. Mark left coldly, returning to rented Audi, packing with curt goodbyes, and vanishing like a stranger. The mansion fell hollow, but Lena clung to a plan. She'd visit him in Spain with her daughter during summer break to talk about their future. That dream died before it began. 2 weeks after Mark left, a stranger appeared at her door, holding papers and barking, "Ms. Lena, this is a lawsuit from the family against you." She froze. At first, she thought her ex was stirring trouble, but family? She'd never married in the U.S. Who could sue her as family? Hands trembling, she flipped through the pages as tears blurred the words. Her daughter grabbed the documents, urging, "Mom, go inside. I'll sign for it." That night, the girl translated the legalese, the air growing colder with every revelation. Mark was suing her, claiming a common law relationship, a de facto marriage without registration. He demanded half the assets accrued during their time together. Her dividend income from her husband, hundreds of thousands annually, and the increased value of her Seattle mansion. In 2016 to 2017, Seattle's housing market had soared. West Side mansions like hers gained $300,000 to $400,000 yearly. Mark calculated 2 years' growth, about $1 million, and sought $500,000 plus monthly alimony, as if they divorced. Lena was floored. The house predated as the dividends were her ex-payments. How could he claim anything? They just dated. How was this a divorce? Her daughter snapped her out of it. "Mom, get a lawyer now or he'll win by default." They rushed the police, hoping to report fraud, but the officer was blunt. "This is civil, not criminal. File a counterclaim." Crushed, Lena called, texted, emailed Mark, only to get chilling reply. "It's with my lawyer. Keep contacting me, and I'll report you for harassment." Desperate, she hired a Chinese-American lawyer at $380 an hour. He listened intently, frowning when she mentioned Mark lived with her from 2015 to 2017, exactly 2 years, and sent money, filed taxes jointly. Leaning back, he said gravely, "Under U.S. law in states like Washington, living together as a couple for 2 years, or less with child, makes you common law spouses. In a breakup, assets split like a divorce." Lena gasped, "Isn't this fraud? Why doesn't the law protect me? I thought no marriage license, no shared title meant safety." The lawyer sighed. Mark planned this. 2 years legitimizes his claim. His payments, joint taxes, they're evidence in his favor. She couldn't believe it. The lawyer pressed on. "The house was yours before, but its value increased during those 2 years. He can claim half. The dividends from your husband count as joint income while you live together. He's entitled to a share. Fighting this will cost tens of thousands, legal fees alone. Many immigrants don't realize cohabitation in the U.S. can be as binding as marriage. Assets, stocks, property, anything that grows during that time becomes shared. If her mansion was worth $2.5 million when Mark moved in and $4.5 million when he left, he could claim $1 million of the $2 million gain." As she left, the lawyer muttered, "He knows the law code. I've seen this before. Same story, different woman." Lena pressed, "What happened in that case?" He stayed silent. A chill ran through her and her daughter. Was Mark part of the scheme, preying on rich women with his friends? Was that elegant woman at the party his next target? Other lawyers agreed. With Mark jobless and assetless, the court might force Lena to split her wealth and pay him monthly. Though the sums weren't huge given the short time, the law stung. Mark had proof, Venom records of family expenses, tax filings listing him as her common law partner, details Lena had overlooked. When asked how they addressed each other, she paled. Friends called him her man. Invites read Mr. or Ms. What once felt sweet now trapped her legally. Fearing lawyers might drop her case if she bared all, Lena turned to media to warn others. Common law ties aren't just romance. They're a legal snare that can have your fortune after 2 years. But her pleas hit dead ends. Emails to Mark bounced. The reporter found no trace of the case's outcome. Clutching her daughter's hand like a lifeline, Lena choked out, "It's fraud. How is this legal? Does the law reward schemers?" Legally, Mark broke no rules. He framed their cohabitation as a marriage, and under Washington law, a split meant splitting assets like spouses. It highlighted a cultural gap. 80% of Westerners signed pre-cohabitation agreements, treating them like a business deal, while many Chinese avoid money talks, deeming them unromantic. Had Lena drafted a contract barring Mark from her assets, she'd have dodged this nightmare. If he refused to sign, he might have walked away, on to an easier Mark. The reporter couldn't track Mark or the ruling. Likely, Lena settled, paying a chunk to avoid a drawn-out trial. $6,000 a day plus lawyer fees could have bled her dry, forcing her to cave. The lesson was brutal. If love seems too perfect, it might hide a trap. Mark's generosity could have been a ploy to access her wealth. The law doesn't shield the naive. Lena couldn't fight back, blind to the legal system. Her story ends here, a stark warning. Love demands trust, but not at reason's expense. Discuss money, draft agreements, set boundaries. Don't let romance blind you predators like Mark, always one step ahead.